Welcome everyone to episode 70 of the Phoenix Report. I am Jack Connor. This is going to be a really fun episode, I think, because for the first time ever, I actually have a co-host. You know him, he's been one of my longest panelists and one of my earliest guests for a while. You know, he's a comedian, former FCW referee, he's a musician. He's a man of many talents. Brian Connolly, what's up, buddy?
Hey, what's up, man?
Not
I always
much.
love your lengthy intros that you have for me.
I mean, I should have had a better one prepared, honestly. It's, you know.
That's enough. I feel like that covers enough. I'm a jack of many trades, master of none.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right. Well, I mean, I wanted to have you on it as a co-host because we have a guest today who I know you've known all your life, and I figured I figured who better to have as my co-host to introduce our guest today. He is also a musician. He played for the Blue Man Group for many years at the production here at Universal Studios in Orlando, Florida. He's been a professional drummer for a long time. He's played with bands like I think most recently the Shabooms, and of course the most famous opening band in the world that you've never heard of, the Schmeltz. I know, Brian, that's a band you know quite a bit about. So we're going to introduce your older brother, Kevin Connolly. Welcome, sir.
Welcome, Kevin.
Greetings, gentlemen. Thank you for having me tonight. We are the world's greatest opening band in the world, and the Schmeltz is probably the thing that Brian and I were born to do. So,
I mean, I'm amazed that I have 2/5 of the Schmeltz here. Like this.
Yeah. We don't appear.
It's not that hard to find the other 3/5. I'm sure they're always willing to talk about the Schmeltz if they given the opportunity.
If you were lucky enough, you would find one of them very close to you in Windermere over there, so you might actually see one.
Probably. I mean, that, you know, and Brian and I have talked about this before, but that blows my mind. The fact that you have a band of the same 5 guys who have been playing together since, you know, for what, almost 25 years now, at least. I mean, on and off, like not like on a weekly basis or anything, but
yeah. It started off in high school.
We started in 94, but we've had this same lineup since 96 of these 5 guys. So, yeah, 25 years.
That's pretty wild.
Crazy.
It started off with us goofing around in our, you know, band high school, you know, the back of the room, just like having Anthony being so crazy and weird, and me and myself, Brian. There was a guy named Daryl. Remember Daryl Bevins, Brian? All of us got together and we would just goof around in band class, and we started learning harmonies to, I think, a Hootie and the Blowfish song, and then that turned into the Schmeltz.
You know, as you do.
God,
you know.
I wouldn't say we learned the harmonies to it, but
no, we just started doing stupid things like that. We were like, hey, we should actually kind of do a band. I swear it was just as simple as that. All of us just messing around.
It's crazy to me that I was 14 years old when we started.
That's the age of my daughter right now. Like
I'm now 40. Yeah, it's insane. But granted, when was the last time we played? But, you know, still, 2 years ago, I guess.
We had a pretty good run of just doing, you know, one show every 3 years or so. You know, I lived out in Las Vegas with Anthony, so it was very seldom that we would come back to Florida. And when we did, there was an occasion where we could throw a show. And that's how we treated it. It was just like an occasional good time, just really a reunion to see our friends. It essentially just becomes that. Our last show was in Clearwater as a reunion show as a benefit for one of our friends. We had to do it. It was something that we were called to.
So when you say a reunion show, does that mean like we broke up?
No.
No.
Just a lengthy period in between shows. I mean, that's the cool thing about having another brother who's a musician, is like you have that built-in bandmate right there.
Well, there's 2 sets of brothers in this band.
And the crazy part is...
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, Brian. Go ahead, continue.
No, I was going to say Anthony and Vince are brothers. Me and Kevin are brothers. And we all love Van Halen. So, like, that's another set of brothers. There's something about...
Chris is like a brother to us as well.
Yeah, Chris is like
our funny, weird brother, the middle brother. That we just.
It's the easiest dynamic for a band I've ever had to deal with, because you don't even have to look at each other really to know like the song's about to end. You just kind of like feel it. It's so hard to describe, but like
pretty much, yeah.
We know how to let each other like solo. Like, all right, you got these parts to play your I say that term loosely. I'm just flopping around on the stage like a dead fish is my idea of a solo.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I was always envious of that because I don't have any brothers, but it's like the closest thing I have is one of my cousins, my cousin Jay, who's played guitar for years, but he's 17 years older than me, so it didn't quite work out that way.
We're all in the same age range for the most part, not too far apart.
Yeah, Vince being the eldest, just because he's 6 years older than Anthony, I think. I get the age difference, but anyhow.
Kevin and I are 2.5 years apart. He's 2.5 years older. But everything I listen to, Kevin showed to me for the most part. Everything I could think of.
I was going to mention that everyone in the band is a drummer as well. So
right.
It's a sick thing that I have to cover the drum chair only by necessity, but it's intimidating. And you've got guys like Anthony and Chris who are like amazing drummers. And it's kind of like playing – it's like Taylor Hawkins, really. Like big shoes to fill when you're Dave Grohl's band.
Right. Also, plus your father is a drummer. I mean, that's sort of how you got introduced to it, is it not?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's the running joke is this family is just a bunch of drummers. That's all we've ever been. Brian stepped out and went beyond. He's the only one that picked up a string instrument because that's I
was actually hoping to play saxophone. I remember when I was like 10. That was my instrument that I wanted to play, and then I realized how hard it was. and
no, I'm not going to be Kenny G. I'm not going to be.
This takes work. We can't have that.
A little casual sax here and there.
Nice. I see what you did there.
I wanted. I think it was easier to just pick up a pair of drumsticks and a practice pad and just do what my dad and my brother did. And now I tell everybody all the time, I think you should start as a drummer to learn to play any instrument, like to learn rhythm and just, I don't know.
To add one more to that, that's where piano comes in, because piano is percussive or glockenspiel or whatever you want to play, but anything that is, a melodic instrument, you got to start learning intervals and relationships of notes at an early age. I actually just wish I had taken piano before anything else.
Yeah.
I dabbled with trumpet. That was nothing. My parents, had they put me in front of a piano, full-size piano, I probably would have been, more, I think, musically inclined. Right now, I'm just a rhythm player. I just didn't really develop like Brian did, because Brian started learning music theory at a younger age. For me, I didn't use it. I didn't practice it. In high school, it was there, but I didn't really pay attention, So I'm not much of a, mallet player. I can read, treble clef pretty well. Bass clef was where I struggled. So, I don't have that advantage of being,
Kevin, how old were you when you started playing, just in general?
There's pictures of me sitting on my dad's lap, goofing around on
probably
drum
just
set.
Born with drumsticks in your hand, so it's,
I recall just seeing them and being fascinated, and I always just was soothed by that. It was when my cousin Greg, who is older than Brian and I, he's our first cousin. He lived in New York City, still lives in New York City, and he was the one that pursued drumming as a career at one point. He went to NYU. He was doing the band thing out there, and I went to see him when I was 14. He took me to a Rush concert. He was kind of like my mentor. That's when I took it serious. But I formally started in grade school, like fifth grade. 4th grade, I tried trumpet. That was miserable. That was a bad idea. And then 5th grade is when I started taking like school band lessons. Playing snare drum.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that dumb trumpet that we had in the house, Brian? I tried.
Sorry to all the trumpet and saxophone players that are listening to this.
Yeah, I know.
We don't want to insult all the brass players and the wind players.
No, I'm not insulting them. No, I love the sound of trumpet. Yeah, I'm down with a good trumpet player. That was not me. I didn't have the just the desire to learn that instrument. So it was fascinating. My amateur was okay, and then I had braces and stuff like that. So I never had like the proper mouth for playing trumpet. Anyway, I saw my strengths. My dad being a drummer, I was like, yeah, I've got rhythm. I should do that. But we live in a small town, and it wasn't a thing. I never saw concerts. We weren't really like exposed to music like other kids in the suburbs of New York and stuff like that. So we had a disadvantage. And it wasn't until I started going to New York City, my parents would put me on the train by myself. At 13 years old, I'd go to New York City and I'd go see concerts and hang out with my cousin, to start getting exposed to that stuff.
Was Rush your first concert, Kevin?
Yeah, Madison Square Garden, 1991,
No
for my
kidding.
birthday. I was turning 14.
Wow.
My cousin.
That's a good first concert.
Yeah, like I remember seeing, like there was like a fight, like a taxi cab got smashed, and there was a fight in the street right outside of Madison. It was like one of the most raucous times, and that's what rock and roll did for me.
That's a hell of a way to start off.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, I mean, because I know, I know you guys were, kind of grew up in the Clearwater, Florida area, but I know that you lived up north for a little bit before that. Now, were you both born in New York?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, we lived there until I was 10, I think, when we moved to Connecticut. So
I was 7 when we moved.
Yeah, we lived in suburbs of Long Island, and then
I'd say our music background started in Connecticut. As far as playing drums and stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Like
we were young in New York, but Connecticut is where we learned how to play. For myself, guitar and drums.
Yeah.
And
it's just something that we do.
By the time we moved to Florida in '93, we both started joining bands immediately.
God.
We were young.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It was a kind of a cool thing to be a little kid in Connecticut. We had a lot of property. I had a drum set in the basement, and we used to take it outside, and we could play and hear like the drums bouncing off the mountains and stuff like that. So it was like cool to have space and be able to play whenever I wanted. It wasn't like we had neighbors right on top. So I used to pound in the basement when most kids were outside playing. And I did play, baseball and stuff with my friends, but when I realized that I had a knack for drums, I spent more time in the basement. And then I started meeting drummer friends. This one kid, Dave Matus, he was a drummer right down the block. The kid was a great drummer, and he actually taught me and pushed me. He was just a year older than me, but he was really good. I remember we learned Living Color tunes together, and he nailed the shit. He made me look like amateur, and his dad wasn't a drummer. So that's where I was kind of pushed. There was a little competitiveness, in band with him. And that was really what drove me to kind of keep up with stuff. And then I started learning rudiments and getting into it. But I think that was it, maybe 7th grade-ish. I took drum lessons from a guy in town, Mike Jones. His sister was a girlfriend of mine I dated. This guy used to play in a band, and I used to go see him play, and started kind of getting into drum set lessons with him. My dad just didn't have the time or the energy to want to show us drum stuff. He played for us occasionally.
He never really showed us anything. That's the thing, is people think.
Yeah, it was more
really
like
we just watched.
We saw him when we were young playing in the bands. So. I remember seeing him play in this cover band thing on the weekends. It's kind of like a little side gig he did, and that was oh, cool, Dad's in a band, and it was at the Ground Round, which was a restaurant that had kids. We can go to hang out, and watch. So Ground Round, yeah. So
Jack is from Pennsylvania, right?
I grew up outside of Philadelphia, and I moved to Florida when I was 15. So kind of a similar situation.
Same as us. Yeah, totally. So. Yeah, so that was it. Being exposed to cool stuff like that as a kid, and then we moved to Florida, and we moved to Tampa Bay, which is one of the coolest places to move as a kid for live music. We got into seeing concerts. Brian and I had this crazy ability to win show tickets off the radio. It was Brian especially. He's got the luck of.
I think I started it with 9 Inch Nails in '94 with Marilyn Manson. It was and then you won Pantera, and then I won Bush, and then you won Weird Al. It was every month we were winning tickets to another show by just calling in and being caller number 9, I think it was, on 98 Rock.
Yeah, dude, it was crazy.
My friends they thought I had some kind of inside connection at 98 Rock or something. You go to shows for free all the time.
You just had good luck. You knew when to call at the right time, I guess.
The shows we saw too, man, was Pantera. Oh my God, I saw Pantera 3 times. I'm extremely fortunate, and I saw Rush 3 times. We did all right growing up.
All just because it was here in Tampa,
Yeah, everything we saw growing up, we absorbed and were able to bring on stage in the Schmeltz for sure.
Of course.
Yeah, it carved our future for sure. I think once we started kind of getting into the the music scene, playing in bands, hanging out at Thoroughbred Music. Just rubbing elbows with people. What was his name? What was the guitar player? Damn it, Mike Bocelli. We watched that stuff, and we there was so many dudes on the scene that I was this is a pretty awesome, flourishing metal scene. Tampa Bay.
You kind of have to be obsessed with it for people that are like learning how to play. Like you can't just like casually, like you have to obsess over whatever. Yeah, like and we did. Like we went full in, like going to concerts, going to seminal music, thoroughbred music, and just reading and taking lessons, anything we could to absorb. We were like obsessed with music, and that's how you have to be.
I mean, I think that's how it usually goes, especially when you're young, when you're a teenager.
Yeah.
I think that's why it lends itself so well, where it's like if you get into it at that particular age. I was the same way. Like, you would start really getting into music, and you just soak it up like a sponge, and that's what gets you on the path. Kevin, I know you said that your first concert was Rush at the Garden, which was amazing. I'm assuming Neil was like probably at the top of your list as far as who was your guys.
Most definitely.
Yeah, he's the top.
When you get obsessive about something and you see a master, and it's acknowledged, even though my dad never really liked Rush and Neil, he definitely acknowledged that he was one of the top of his craft.
Sure.
We had parents that.
Our dad is the Buddy Rich guy.
Sure.
Nobody's better than Buddy Rich. Nobody.
That's perfection. I mean, Buddy played with like this intensity that you can't describe. I got to see Buddy Rich play twice as a kid, So my dad was cool enough to show me that. That was like my first concert, really, if you want to say.
Oh yeah.
Sure, and Neil Peart himself was a big fan of Buddy Rich, and
yeah, they come from the same kind of,
especially as he got older, he studied more jazz stuff. I know later in his career.
Yeah, but he just played with a lot of heart, and where Buddy had a fiery heart, Neil had a kind heart, and both of them played with such conviction. You know what I'm saying? Like you could just see. That's why I think Neil had an affection for Buddy. He saw a lot of himself in him, and the wanted to be perfectionist, type of thing. Anyway, that's probably why I was drawn to him. My dad listened to everything from their favorite band was Chicago. So
yeah.
I was always into that style of 70s stuff, exposed to Steely Dan.
Yeah. My dad loved Chicago as well.
Chicago, I mean, what a great sound! Like Brian and I are used to hearing horn.
He actually saw them. My dad actually saw Chicago, like in the late '60s, like when he was in college. Like he would go see them around like Pennsylvania and everything. So it's like, hearing him talk about that being an early concert experience is really cool.
Hell yeah, man! That's what we knew as great music. We just knew the sounds that we were hearing were unlike anything else. Now, my mom being a huge Beatles fan, Michael Jackson, we had Thriller on all the time. And,
man.
That's just what we thrived on. So, I'm very fortunate that my parents were hip. They liked music. It was a thing. Led Zeppelin was a band, but they weren't really into it. I think that was maybe a little too young.
We never heard that in our house.
We weren't. Yeah, that was
maybe a little heavy for their tastes at the time. Yeah, maybe.
No, I mean my dad. They liked Led Zeppelin, but they just didn't play it regularly. They were more in kind of like the disco era kids. Married in '76, so we're talking.
I remember them having Men at Work, Cargo, and Lionel Richie albums, and Pac-Man Fever. That's what I found.
Man, and Motown stuff like Donna Summer. My parents liked the cool stuff. Nice. I was fortunate that we just always had it. I remember playing out some of my records, my dad's records, so much I'd scratch them and break his needle on his record player and he'd get pissed. I mean, that was something he took very seriously. I got a whooping for busting up his needle one day. I swear I'd learned my lessons.
Yeah. Open up a can of whoop ass.
And we're in New York, so nobody knows how to whoop up in New York. So anyhow, just the formative years of being a musician and young, and what we did coming to Florida was like, we were so lucky to get, dropped into a place, Clearwater especially. We had a really nice house. We were around the corner from Ruth Eckerd Hall and Thoroughbred Music. Brian and I would go there all the time. I bought so much gear at that K-Pop place.
Well, they used to have the drum expos too, so we could
and the guitar expos.
Yeah, I know there's been a big Sam Ash there for years, and
that's changed hands. That's a very famous venue from back in the 40s, I think, 40s or 50s. It was like a spot where people held weddings, a tourist destination.
It's really a unique building there, and I think because I was actually at a wedding And not in the Sam Ash, obviously, but there is like a garden and there's like a banquet hall
grounds
connected to it where I've been to a wedding there before, so yeah, it's still just a really unique, a lot of like Grecian, architecture.
Yep.
A lot of bands have taken band photos there.
Sure. Yeah. I don't blame them.
That's for sure.
But yeah, because I know that you've played professionally for a lot of years. I know that you were in Vegas for a while with Blue Man. Were you with any other shows or productions out there?
There was a couple things that I got involved with. Blue Man being my full-time job, that was something that I had, a 40-hour-a-week commitment to. So the stuff I had to do was extracurricular in the sense that I did school teaching in the mornings. I linked up with a middle school and high school band director that was a young guy, moved from San Francisco, and him and I had a successful run of opening up a brand new middle school program. It was nothing like having 350 new kids, new instruments, everything brand new. And so that was something I was really excited to do. I moved out to Blue Man for a part-time job. So when I first got out there, it was only like a 25-hour-a-week type of thing. So I had to kind of supplement and find
as a tech too. You weren't playing in the show.
Yeah. So I started out as just a part-time drum tech. They just needed an extra hand, and I saw the opportunity to get in. I'd auditioned, a couple times, but I was pretty young as a player. I never really played in many bands, and I needed to kind of hit the ground and do some stuff. So I just saw the opportunity to get out of Tampa, do something new, do some teaching, kind of refine my skills, and watch some of the greatest drummers of all time out on, the Vegas Strip. Like in Blue Man Vegas, we had some guys that I just worshipped, Tim Alexander from Primus was one of our drummers, like that's a dude I saw him play with Rush. Open for Rush.
Slaughter, man.
Blas Elias.
And Blas was another influence.
He still plays out in raiding the Rock Vault out there, I believe.
Exactly. Yeah, that dude. And Trans-Siberian Orchestra.
Yeah.
Like, that guy parlayed his thing into a bigger scale. Blue Man was cool for him because it was like, home. When he's at home, that's his, his gig that he was able to do, full time. But
what's crazy is like when the Schmeltz played once out in Vegas, both of them were in the audience, like Blas.
Yeah, there's nothing like looking out in the audience and seeing.
And Chris was wearing a Slaughter shirt on stage at the time, and I think he appreciated that.
Nice, and I think he plays with Vince Neil as well sometimes, or at least he had at some point.
He might have subbed in. Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, so he doesn't get to tour with Slaughter anymore. There's another guy who's a phenomenal drummer.
Right.
If you ever see Slaughter's drum, this guy Zoltan,
yes,
it's insane.
Yeah, he does a lot of crazy trick stuff. So yeah. I've seen him around. But how, I guess I'm curious how you ended up getting into that line of work. Did you study music in college, or how did you end up sort of breaking into that field? Because I imagine it's got to be really competitive.
It's for sure. It was, I mix it with luck as well as just being in the right place at the right time. So the things that I did to get to that point, I can't say are too, out of the ordinary, because I played drums in school, did marching band. The guy that was my marching band instructor was Anthony. Anthony was my, drumline instructor that I met second day of band camp, that I was, he and I hit it off. He just took me under his wing. And so anyhow, followed Anthony through many steps of his career, doing the Jameters thing. I didn't formally study in college. I never went to music school, but I marched drum and bugle corps. I went to Scotland and played snare drum in a bagpipe band. I played in countless pit orchestras and church programs, and I just said yes to a bunch of weird shit. I just did
obsessively playing the drums, in a good way.
Ska bands. I played it all the different styles, just because I was I had to do it, and I felt like if I wasn't making music or meeting new people, then I was giving into, the other thing, which we all have to worry about. And that's just like, the job, the career, the next step, I just kind of focused on music without really kind of thinking. And I mean, I got a AA degree from St. Pete JC, I got a degree that I can do something with if I wanted to. It's an AA for, I wanted to be a teacher. I was going to get a teaching degree, but I never finished it. I never went to USF. I got accepted and then chickened out because I was going on the road with my band, and I was like, yeah, I'd rather do that. I'm going to, still take a stab at the music career. That was Pulling Birds. We had a, chance at a record deal. We had a lot of attention, and I was it. I just saw dollar signs in that. So,
well, hey, you were able to make it happen. I mean, even albeit in a different way, but still, you managed to go out there and you've managed to play professionally for decades now, and it's really impressive because I know a lot of guys who play in bands. I don't know too many who do it as their day job, or at least And so I mean, I'm always impressed when I've heard about what you've done over the years, through Brian and.
So Kevin, how long were you a tech in Vegas before you got to play? Did you get to play in Vegas or only when you came to Orlando?
Right before I came to Orlando, I trained out there. So I moved out there in March of 2001, for, like I said, for the part-time job, all because my friend Anthony was a blue man. He heard that they were looking for a part-time tech. He called me. Like I said, not being good enough to play, I was like, I need to get in the company. This is my in, So being a tech came naturally because I've always, I worked at a drum store. I've always been a geek and taken apart a million drums. I'm just that, geeky guy. So I bluffed my way into the drum tech thing. I never formally worked as a drum tech at a studio or toured with any bands. I just bluffed my way. I met the production manager. He sat me down and said, can you do this? Can you do this? Have you ever done this? I was like, yeah, cool. I got that, can you work with vendors? Can we refine how we get our, drum heads, drumsticks? I was like, yeah, I could totally do that. Just said yes.
Nice.
That's how easy it was because, the guy saw I managed, retail. I did Mars Music. I was a drum department manager for a few years and, got to meet a lot of the just reps and all that stuff. So I saw an industry in for me associated with Blue Man Group that I couldn't find anywhere else. I was kind of repping Blue Man Group. So they used to take me to I went on a tangent to say I moved out there in 2001 and I was there till 2007. But in that short span, I went to full time as a drum tech, and then I became kind of like the Blue Man Group Productions guy where I do outside gigs, got to do stuff internationally. We went to do a show for the Queen of England. I got to go do that, stood next to Ozzy Osbourne on stage. And we watched the Queen laugh. Just weird, totally weird shit. The best thing that Brian and I get to always tell the story of, we got to go on tour together. We got to go do the Complex tour. So I got the call. They said, hey, we need a drum tech to cover the summer leg. Would you take it? I was like, yeah, my wife is pregnant. I don't know. And can you recommend somebody else? I was like, yeah, I don't really know anybody that's available for the summer. But then I said, hey, well, if you can let me select, somebody to work with, maybe I'll entertain the idea. I was like, I might have a sidekick, a drummer that I could take along. And that was Brian. So they said yes. Both him and I got to hit the road together.
That's amazing. That's so cool.
And he lived in Vegas at the time. I lived here, so we never got to see each other that much anyway.
Yeah, right. It was like a vacation.
Paid to hang out for three months.
Wasn't a vacation. Let me take that back.
No,
you were working.
We had 4 drum sets on that stage, and we had our game down. I think, Brian, at the end of the tour, couldn't we get the stuff back in cases? Yeah, we had the stage cleared in 10 minutes. We were on the bus drinking beers in 25 minutes, man. Push all the stuff into the truck. You just become machines,
Had the placemat where all the drums went had color coded, even like a Lego set. Yeah. Anybody could have put it together.
We made it dummy proof. Actually, it was done before. We went to New York to check it out. We got trained. We saw the rigs. We got to fix stuff that we didn't like and all that stuff. But the drummers were all super cool. They were all very helpful getting us prepared. They set us up for success with that. And so, we went out and kicked ass. And then when I left the tour, Brian got to stay on for another, 4 months?
Oh, my God. I did it without Kevin, and I was scared shitless, of course.
But he was with the coolest dude he could ever be with, and that's our friend Noah, another drum tech from Chicago. Who
it just got out of hand. But, then I saw Deborah McMichael in the audience at a show.
Oh yeah.
Kevin.
Oh.
I think you were.
That was Austin, Texas, right?
Yeah, you were a part of that. But.
Yeah, where we almost left Brian behind because he was making out with.
It's because it's Deborah, man. Come on.
Yeah.
He almost got oil slicked. I swear, I'm not kidding. He almost got left behind in Austin. I remember calling his.
It would have been worth it
flip
to me.
phone.
I don't care. I regret nothing.
Yeah, so we turned that into a wicked good time for bonding, and that was right.
Tonight Show with Jay Leno appearance. A DVD shoot.
Crazy shit. I think I've done Leno probably 3 or 4 times now, and it's just kind of like back when it was Leno's show, and that's something like I never would have gotten to see these opportunities. So as a drum tech, I had more exciting exposure and challenges than as a performer. Here in Orlando, I barely get to move and do anything. We're all pretty much stationary playing the show here.
Yeah, I do want to make that clear for for the people listening. You weren't necessarily a blue man, but you were part of the backing band. And you would still have your own, costumes and other stuff. My wife and I actually came to see one of the shows a couple years ago, and it was great.
I remember you saying that you came through. So
yeah, and I remember we had talked a little bit after the show, and I just just telling you how much I enjoyed it, and I just think that's the brilliance of the Blue Man Group is that I think because they don't speak, the Blue Men. I mean, but they're very expressive with their eyes and facial expressions, and just the show itself is very funny, and I feel like that sort of thing translates no matter what language you speak, no matter where you are in the world. I think people can see that and kind of appreciate it and understand it, and obviously
so hard to describe the show to people who haven't seen it, but it's better that way, that they just see it for themselves and make their minds up.
Yeah, it's definitely a little avant-garde, I guess that might be a way to describe it. But I mean, certainly having it based in Universal Studios, you have a built-in, tourism, hub, much like Vegas. It's not quite on the level of Vegas, but still, Orlando is a huge tourist area, and you have people coming in, and so that helps, especially if you're running continuous shows like that.
Our show is now the biggest as far as seating wise. Our theater at Universal has 1,000 seats. Vegas just cut down to a smaller venue size, so about 600 seats. So, in the company, we are one of the newer shows, but our material is older than some of the shows because they've been updated now. Ours is like the kind of last. So basically what I'm saying is, our show is kind of like a flagship show, with the material being kind of classic older stuff. And when we were performing 7 nights a week, with Universal, we're a 50-50 partner. So, we have a great symbiotic relationship with them. When, they put forth a lot of effort, it's matched by us and vice versa. We have a lot in the marketing together and stuff. So they want us to succeed. We still have some time left on our contract with them, which I hope we will be able to, kind of pick up where we left off or whatever's going to happen. With Cirque du Soleil being our parent company now, things are a little different, so now they've been, the policies have changed a little bit. We're waiting to be rehired essentially. So they have the intention of, opening a show. We want to do it again. Our theater's still there. The drums are still set up.
Yes. I was going to get into that. I did want to mention, for other 90s kids who are listening, the Blue Man Group Theater is where Nickelodeon Studios used to be.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Those of you who grew up in the 90s will know where Nickelodeon Studios was.
Right. Did I ever take you up to the second story?
No, but I've seen in the window the cardboard cutouts of like Ren and Stimpy or whoever.
Yeah. So in the second story was our rehearsal room.
And they kept a lot of that stuff there.
It was until maybe a couple years ago. There was one hallway that had Powdered Toast Man and all these cool, and I had to take pictures with all of them before it got demolished. It was a time capsule. I mean, it smelled like Nickelodeon, because that's where they did Family Double Dare and stuff. It was like there was like a nostalgia in the room and energy that
I'm sure
it's kind of exciting. So I think they took that time capsule out that they buried there in the courtyard. I don't know if you remember that whole thing. It was supposed to be like a little time capsule.
I think so. Yeah, I think I remember.
I'm not sure when it was supposed to be opened up, what the whole thing was, and supposedly it's been, replaced and into a different place. I don't know. So I like being
next door to you guys for a few years was the TNA Impact Wrestling tapings.
Sure.
Funny run-ins with some pro wrestlers.
Oh man,
absolutely.
I've had so many weird ones to the effect that it just became the norm where you would have like an awkward backstage encounter with one of those guys. I forget who it was, but
it was Kurt Angle.
Kurt Angle used our friggin' showers.
Oh,
We're coming in from.
That was Big Papa Pump, Scott Steiner.
Steiner, that's right, dude. We're coming in and like just got done with the show. Yeah, all right, cool. Heading into the dressing room. Out comes him, wrapped in the towel, his hair doing it. Yeah, thanks guys. Shower pressure's great in this room.
maybe theirs wasn't working. I don't know what happened.
I don't know, man. Somehow he ended up in our. It's just weird, But that's.
I would have been scared to death seeing Scott Steiner walk out. Walking
Seriously,
in my locker room.
It made me like realize like what the hell is going on.
He is a very large man.
I'd see Flair and Hogan all the time. I mean, we used to see Billy Corgan daily. He'd be hanging out back there, and the Wonder Years guy, what's his name?
Jason Hervey. Yeah.
Just with their clipboards, all right, okay, what we're gonna do now, like directing and stuff like that. Like Billy Corgan directing wrestling was amazing.
Yeah. Hey, keep breaking kayfabe there.
Well, he's Billy Corgan actually is still involved in
I think he was still part of the thing, right?
No, you're talking about
he brought back the NWA. It's a different company, no longer with Impact Wrestling, which was TNA at the time, but.
Kevin's trying to insinuate that some of this might be choreographed.
I didn't say he was directing. He was just telling people when they had to be in the ring. Okay, in the next 5 minutes, your ass needs to be up there with his ass.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's all good.
No, I know Kevin. A friend of me and Brian's, Jennifer Kirshner, was a backstage producer there for years.
Oh, cool.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so
definitely.
But getting into it, and I didn't want to bury the lead here. Obviously, as we record this, it's October of 2020. When COVID happened, I know that affected your job there, and I know you're sort of in a holding pattern at the moment. How has that been these last few months? I know it was a shock at the time for you when it happened, as it was for everybody. So I mean, it's really impacted a lot of people's livelihoods. How have you been holding up in the months since everything that's been happening?
I'm trying to stay as optimistic and positive about this as possible, because this really has nothing to do with, we as a society, we're doing what it takes to protect ourselves and not going to entertainment, and avoiding risk is the best thing, right? So I can't be angry at that, So the way it was handled, the company thing it was rough, because we had, the last day of work was like, all right, see you in 2 weeks, and that turned into a furlough, and that turned into a layoff, permanent layoff. So frustrating, but again, Cirque being a huge company, it's nothing I can control. So I had to just get past the mourning, like the death of the job as it was. I don't know if it'll return to the same capacity, but I'm trying to be as optimistic about it as possible. In the meantime, I've been able to use it's a silver lining thing, excuse me, because as a performer, not having nights, weekends, holidays with my family, I've never had this time off, right? So being, dad at home, quite a bit, doing stuff that I've never gotten to do with them. I mean, it's the stupid things, that I'm just like, wow, sunsets. Never really saw many sunsets because I've been inside a theater for 20 years, right? So it's those kind of things, seeing family, getting over to see Brian and my mom and dad and stuff. So that's where I look at this. It's just been kind of like a nice pause, and I'm not being selfish. I'm just saying it's just a thing that I've had to come to peace with, because it's torturing me. I can't play music. That's the only thing I do. That's who I am, So having that removed from my life, I've had to, fill that void. So, with my band, we're writing music together. We're being responsible. We're not, playing shows, but we're doing distance practice and writing sessions together. I've done studio stuff. I've got my own studio. So finding ways to make money doing that. Video game soundtracks. I have a friend who was doing that. I did a couple tracks for him here, there. So, nothing that's making a ton of money. I'm not replacing my salary, but little projects that I can say yes to because I've got time.
Do you still get to play like every day, or do you make a habit of trying to play every day, or?
I'd say not every day. No, as much as I can. I have electronic drums here in my house, actually, what I'm sitting in front of right now.
Yeah,
so I can play a little bit. Or I've got my drum studio where I can go 24/7. It's up by Full Sail, so it's about 30 minutes away. 30, 40 minutes, so I can play whatever I want. And I'm trying to keep my head together, stay focused on things, playing every day. What I can, keep the skills up. I've actually been working on double strokes on double bass. I know it's the most ridiculous thing ever, but it's something I've always wanted to learn, and it takes a lot of repetition and
Nobody
hours.
thinks that's a ridiculous thing. You're wrong.
I just want to play blast beats all day, and that's all I've been doing.
It's a mandatory thing. That's what I've been trying to tell him to do for the last 20 years.
I want to play in a sick metal band, so I'm learning, on electronic drums where you can cheat. You turn the gain way up on your triggers, and everything sounds super full and rocking. I can play Pantera songs now, which is something I've always wanted to do with double strokes, right? I put
eventually be playing Meshuggah and Lamb of God and Dimmu Borgir.
Just little goals like that, man. Yeah, there you go. I'll do double bass.
Vertebreaker? Yeah, with some blast beats.
Oh, sure, why not? I'm glad that you've obviously maintained a really positive attitude when it comes to all this, and you've been continuing to work, and I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that everyone's healthy in you guys' family as well.
Yeah, man, that's it. It's just staying indoors. I haven't really left much, I'll be honest. I take it seriously. Both Brian and I, we know he's working around sick people and he,
sure.
People that come in and stuff like that. So it's a little nerve wracking. My parents are high risk.
Mostly mentally sick people I work around.
Well,
Yeah. No, it's just,
yeah.
Talk about metropolitan areas, where there's just a lot of foot travel and stuff like that. Not working at a theme park right now is probably a better thing, trying to mitigate the risks. I'm healthy. Everybody in my household is healthy, and that's what great. The name of the game is. Everybody just got to be in self-preservation mode,
Yeah.
I heed the risks, and I definitely know that there's people suffering. I can't afford to go in the hospital. I can't, I've just got health care for the first time in 20 years on my own, right? So I'm not carrying the big policy I once had. Right. So it's, got to be careful.
Yeah. Well, again, I'm glad that, you're healthy and that you're working still got a check coming in. So that's, that's always a good thing. That makes a big difference in the world. And honestly, I should have mentioned this in the intro. I've kind of buried the lead a little bit, but now you're in the world of podcasting. You are one of the hosts of the Kev and James Show. Yeah,
I know. Is that stupid? I know.
Kev,
right.
So tell us a little bit about this show. So what is the show about?
Thank you. It's nice to be a part of your world now, the podcaster world. Not really, big into the culture. I was just kind of approached by James being a fellow musician from Blue Man Group. Both of us being out of work, ranting about stuff that we don't like about, unemployment and this and that. We were just getting together routinely, had a couple nights of, nice dinner and drinks. And then another drummer friend from Blue Man came over one night. This just became a hang, us talking about oh man, it'd be cool to do this and, have some gigs virtually and this and that, just talking about stuff. And that's where James said, how would you feel about doing a podcast together? Us interviewing people and talking about what they're doing during these times to survive, whether they're reinventing themselves, doing something completely different, how they're being creative. What you basically asked me is essentially the basis of where, our sessions are. But it's all about support and positivity. We don't do the politics bashing, very little biased sounding stuff. We throw a little jabs and stuff like that, but that's not our intentions.
There's so much of that out there, honestly.
Exactly. We're bombarded with that on a daily basis on normal, social media and mainstream media. So this is a nice alternative where people tune into your podcast because they know what they're going to get from you. It's pretty wide open with what you can find. So ours is not comedy based, but it's silly, and it's lighthearted and stuff like that. But we feature music. Every show has a new song by a band that we know. The one that went out today was our buddy Kurt, who is he's the new singer of LA Guns. So he brought a brand new track.
Okay.
debut a national bands track on our podcast. It's
go.
like crazy. So yeah, I'm like sidekick, co-host. James and I work well together. He's just like me. We're just kind of like really thankful to do what we do, and he's a dad. We're just old dads rocking out, man.
Well, plus you mentioned national bands. I didn't even mention this, but your band, the Shabooms, you played. There's sort of an R&B, like classic R&B band that you played for a while. But am I correct? Didn't you guys have a song that got picked up by Supergirl on the CW, the show Supergirl?
Yeah,
which is really cool because I've watched that
ago.
show. I've watched that show for many years, so that I was really glad to hear that you got a song featured on the show.
We've been doing it for 10 years. I mean, the band's been through so many different iterations, and Brian can say he's seen us in the beginning. It started off as a very kind of like Motown-esque. We had a singer who did the Motown thing very well. Yeah. She left, moved away. We had to find a replacement, and a girl fell in our lap that we it was amazing how it worked out. But she was with Justin Timberlake, left LA, came to Orlando, Florida. We snagged her, and now we're like a rock band. We kind of do like it's like garage soul. Like if you were to take, Motown and just put it in Athens with crazy, rock vibes. So we get like psychedelic. That's how we got linked up with the B-52s. Like kind of have like a different flair like them, because they're not punk, they're not this, they're not like they just have their own thing. So
right.
So yeah, that band has kept us busy. I toured with them last year. We did a bunch of tours.
That's awesome.
Like that's my main project that I put a lot of energy into as far as the original stuff. The Schmeltz is a little side project, and this is another side. I've got a lot of those. A lot of them with Blue Man guys, or a lot of them with Brian. Like a lot of times we just kind of do goofy shit. Like our buddy Justin had a couple of funny comedy bands, Road Cone, stupid things. But yeah, anyway, I like being involved in many different things. I'm kind of a whore. Sorry, that's just how I've always been. Yeah. But why not? I want to play with everybody. It's just so enjoyable, and I learn something.
Exactly.
Everybody's got something to offer, and
don't be sorry.
Yeah. No, I've been faulted. A lot of people say, you got to just focus on one thing, man.
That's BS. That's
the worst advice you could ever give somebody is to only.
If you have the ability to do more than one thing and to get as much out of the music business, or even just as much creatively out of music as possible, then you owe it to yourself to do that and to get as much out of this as you can, and it's fun, man. I just you're doing it for the love of the game as well as the work.
Absolutely. In the beginning,
Jack is involved in quite a few projects himself.
Oh yeah,
right?
I see that.
Yeah. I mean, I do it when I can. I mean, it's nothing that's really made me any money yet, but it's I'm in 2 original bands right now. I've got possibly a cover band that might be starting, maybe not. I've been playing bass in a Linkin Park tribute band. I've been trying to get that off the ground as well. So I'm just trying to do what I can as much as.
You threw an idea out at me.
I did, and
was still pretty.
I did, and I would still love to do that. I mean, Brian and I have joked around for years about starting like a tribute band that plays wrestling theme songs. Classic WWE, WCW.
DTF on that.
And I've told you about it. I've contacted a few friends about it, and just
50 songs lined up in mind.
Oh yeah, easily. Yeah.
I mean
hard.
I mean, and as silly as an idea as that would be, but like you would have to be able to play so many different styles of music for that, and have to get real creative with the presentation. But like, there aren't too many bands that do. I think there's like maybe one band here in the States that does that. And I've seen some of their YouTube videos. I mean,
luckily Kevin and I have seen Weird Al and Gwar and Steel Panther and enough of the Tenacious D, enough of those.
Sure.
Yeah, we'll do it better. We don't. Well, the competition's not something we have to worry about right now. I just know we'll kill it. So
exactly.
I mean, Weird Al was like, he's our hero. Brian and I've seen Weird Al more than anybody else in concert. I'm proud to say that.
Same here. I've seen him 9 times.
Yeah. So it's one of those things that like we're good with. Parody rock.
Exactly.
Tenacious D.
Yeah. No, but when you talk about different styles, like forget it. Yeah, we got it.
I know. Yeah, you guys have the ability, and you have that sense of presentation. You like to perform a lot. You guys are naturals when it comes to that. So yeah,
actually, what I is put on my face. Like it's like something takes over, man, like a mask or glasses or something go on.
Yeah.
Much like Macho Man. I'm sure
Exactly.
he can't perform the way he does without the glasses and the bandana on.
Exactly. I've been trying to work stuff like that into my main band, Vertebreaker, but we'll see what happens with that. But regardless, yeah, I mean that's something we've joked around for about. That's something we've joked around about for a long time, and I brought the idea up to you, Kevin, and you were down for it immediately. So you never know, maybe like one day. One day something like that will happen once the world allows it. Right now, it's
and space is the place.
Right.
Funky like a monkey.
Exactly. I couldn't have said it better myself.
Mental
telepathy.
That's something in Vegas. I did some corporate convention work. My friend, Anthony Perulli, Chris Carbonaro, and myself, we did this thing called Slappy Bill Productions, which is basically just a drum group for hire, and we custom tailor like trash can shows. We all did the Jammers thing at Epcot, so we all had that kind of vocabulary of that style of drumming, and we just put together shows. And corporate convention work is where it's at, man. That's where the money's at. I'm telling you, you can make some stupid money. So,
maybe not so much for the Schmeltz, but for
but for a themed out, like if it was a wrestling themed, or you play wrestling con shows. Come on, man.
You know what I mean, and especially because I've gotten work, as an announcer for my buddy's independent wrestling promotion down here.
Hell yeah!
So, and that's been a lot of fun. I've been wanting to bring Brian in that for a while. The two of us doing commentary would be gold, I think.
Are they still doing that, or is that taking a pause?
I mean, a little bit. Like they're doing some shows here and there. I haven't. He's done some shows in Indiana and some stuff out of state.
Right.
But I mean, I know that I'm sure that once they do some local shows around, Jeremy will give me a call and all that. So, but yeah,
there's definitely a potential Bobby Heenan Gorilla Monsoon.
You know it.
Yes, classic.
Yes.
So.
We could definitely do it. I know. I actually just auditioned for this one group of guys. They wanted to do. They actually specifically wanted to do the Judas Priest album "Screaming for Vengeance," which I thought was interesting because it's like I've heard of tribute bands, but a band that's focusing on one particular album.
Record. Yeah,
I'm like, that's different. That's a little interesting. I'm not sure where they're going with that, but I figured I'd go there and try it out. So
Wow.
But I think we have all this in common because at the end of the day, we're all music fans.
Right.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what comes across, and that's we're all still hungry to go out and do these things and to have fun with it. And
it's a lifestyle. It's not something that I can really describe to somebody that's not in music. It's not. It all consumes me.
It wasn't just a phase we went through.
No, exactly. We got
we're in it.
It was genetically, our DNA carries that. There's rhythm gene. Brian, like I said, was the one that stepped out and started learning another instrument. So, he's got, I think, probably the most talent in the family as far as a broader musical spectrum. And so, but rhythm stuff, I've just always been fascinated with. Everything in the drum world. So it's, think of how many different opportunities I could explore with it. It's not just one facet of, Blue Man Group. You can't really train to do the Blue Man Group drumming thing. So that's like a mix up of all the skills that I kind of gathered, like marching band drumming, because it's playing as an ensemble.
Well, just so many different types of percussion as well, and different techniques. And I mean, I'm not a drummer myself. I kind of wish that I was better at it, but I mean, having been a bass player for years, it's always something I've appreciated.
Yeah, you know what it takes. So it's cool. I just love doing it. I hope it comes back to whatever capacity for all of us. Like with bands now getting out and doing the new style of shows, I'm booked for one next month to see how what it's going to feel like. But tabled shows where you have an audience sitting down at tables. There's a capacity. The room we're playing has got like 70, 80 person capacity.
Okay.
And Stanford, a place called the West End Trading Company. So
yeah, I've played there a bunch of times.
They moved the stage so it's not in the diagonal corner. Now they have a full size stage that's a rectangle, bigger shape. Really big shape actually. It's probably 20 feet long, maybe a little bigger.
Okay. Because I remember it wasn't a particularly big room, but that would be interesting to see what they've done with it.
They opened it up, and like I said, it's just going to be a ticketed, chill event. So they're trying to do it right, and that's the kind of places I support. We want to make sure that baby steps. That's it.
Of course.
Can't go balls to the wall just yet. So it's like we're going to do 4 shows, which is 2 nights, an 8 o'clock and a 10 o'clock or whatever. And then, see how that goes. And if that's the avenue that we have to do for a few months to keep paying the bills, we have a rehearsal space. We got other, things that we pay for. So it's coming out of our pockets personally right now. That sucks. So it's nice to have an avenue to start generating some money again.
Yeah, man. Well, I mean, I'm definitely in your corner on that one. I really hope it works out for you. I hope obviously, because that's good for everybody, who's doing that sort of thing.
Got to forge ahead. We got to see, what it's going to be, and like I said, safely.
Yes.
I'll wear a mask all night or whatever it takes. It's cool. Yeah. I'm already behind a drum set, so not so many people come close to me.
There you go.
They're smart.
Set up one of those plexiglass, things. Or
I hate that shit.
You need one of those more than ever.
Yeah.
No, I don't like playing in a fish cage.
Yeah.
Fish cage.
Sure. Are fish in a cage? I don't know.
Actually, the next time the Schmeltz play, we should be in like little pods, like Spinal Tap.
Spinal Tap, yeah.
That'd be a great band name, Fish Cage.
Fish in a Box. That's what Kevin's band had a song called Fish in a Box.
Socks. Good old Tube Socks. One of the first bands when I moved to Florida. I put up an ad at Seminole Music. I was 14. I get a call a couple days later. Hey, you want to jam out with us? Cool. How old are you? I'm 18. All right, cool. So are we. I show up to first band practice, and they're younger than me. They're like 13, and I'm 14. We were lying to each other, saying that we were 18-year-olds just to be able to bluff our way into playing music together.
You guys catfished each other, basically.
Yeah, we totally did. Like, as kids. I mean, think of how, deviant that is.
That's hardcore.
That's crazy. So, yeah, and that became, that was just a Rush cover band in the beginning. That became Tube Socks, like a punk ska band. That was, we loved everything. We played
a Rush cover band became a ska band.
Yeah.
Why not? I love
played
it.
The brass mug. We had people in a pit in front of us at a taco place. That's how weird it got.
More importantly, you played Mexico Grande.
Mexico Grande. Ryan's got the sign. Get show it. You want to.
Good stuff.
Ryan's got the sign for the place. There it is. Mexico Grande. R.I.P. That's from the drive-through.
Nice. Well, that's cool, Kevin. I'm glad you're doing more stuff with the Shabooms, and you've got the podcast now. Where can people find all your stuff online? Go ahead and plug away all your information where people can find you.
So if you're into different kind of band, it's a female fronted with horns. It's not funk, it's not soul, it's not this. It's just a rock band. Anyway, it's called the Shabooms. THE, the Shabooms, SH dash booms. There's no A in there. So it's kind of like a throwback name, trying to do, like I said, like a Motown sounding thing, but it's a really fun project. And we have our own, put a record out last year. It's called The Blurred Odyssey. It's available on Apple Tunes or all the big normal places you can find music. And then trying to think, social media wise, we're on Instagram and Facebook. Come see us play live around Orlando area, but we tour. We'll hit the road every once in a while. And then my podcast now, the Kev and James Show. That's something we just started a couple weeks ago, so it's still in its infancy. We're just getting going. So like you, we are on all the platforms. Buzzsprout was where we kind of started, and that's put us into Spotify, Stitcher, and all the major platforms. Of course, Apple Podcasts. So, are you on all of them? Did you do the whole?
I'm just on YouTube right now because I'm too cheap to pay for hosting, basically.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure. Yeah, because that's how we were debating. Like, do we want to just kind of roll it out YouTube style, see how it goes? But I figured why not just see what the interest is at the beginning. Then we'll if we want to do it another season, cool. Just baby steps with that as well. So.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really do it regularly enough to really justify doing it. But I mean, who knows? Maybe one day I'll just bite the bullet and just upload my stuff and see what happens. But
yeah, man. Well, thank you very much. It's like a new beginning in this respect. Getting to do something, especially Brian and I were talking about doing it as well, and I'm still not opposed to that. Just, different formats. Brian has a different vibe where him and I kind of riff off each other, and he's being more comedy based, and with wrestling and all of our stupid things in our back, like
it's
just
impossible for me to be too serious for too long. It's just it hurts my soul.
We don't want that. We don't want any trauma.
It might be a while on that one. We're working it out, and Kevin's just getting a feel for how he likes doing podcasting now. And
yeah, why not? If I got the time, see how this feels, and it's kind of cool because like coming up with the ideas behind the show content, and how to plan accordingly with our guests. We're not just doing not just doing musicians. We're doing culinary people, so people that have had to do kind of like pandemic pivoting in the restaurant industry, club owners, trying to get Will Walker, Will's pub owner. He's committed, he wants to come on. A couple guys doing documentaries, that we're going to have on and discuss what brought them to this point. If you're familiar with the band Four Squirrels, the guys doing their documentary, that's coming. They just dropped their trailer. This guy Chris.
Cool. So
it's coming up. You got to check it out. It's just stories that I'm excited for people to be able to hear. You play the Crowbar in Ybor City.
That's actually like one of the places in Tampa I've never played. I've been there a bunch, but I've never played.
So you know the club. Yeah, the guy who owns that place.
I know Tom. Yeah.
Tom, very outspoken, and has done an outstanding job of representing the Save Our Stages campaign.
Yeah, I knew Tom when he worked at the Masquerade, which is now the Ritz, Ybor, and
right. Yeah.
Yeah, he booked my first band when I was in college. So it's I've known Tom for a while.
So you know the scene, and so what these guys are doing, Will's a part of that association as well.
Sure.
Just, independent venues. So there's a documentary coming out, and we're getting behind that. We're trying to really push those avenues for people to hear these stories and how to save our industry. It's not just touring bands, it's local bands, everybody. It's like everything is just getting a beat down from the top down. So
absolutely.
So hopefully we'll be taking the stage again next year. I mean, we're hearing springtime or blah blah blah. We'll have to just see. It's one day at a time at this point, So I hope you guys can make it through it as well, and your band persevere through this, and everybody's projects can, Brian's working, he's an essential worker. He's out there working and having to deal with people. So I thank you guys for,
Cool, man. Yeah. Well, this has been great. Thanks again.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you. Yeah, man. We appreciate having both of us up because,
once we have our podcast up and rolling, you'll definitely be a guest on ours.
Yeah, I guess
I love it.
Can you come on and plug your stuff on our show? And
Please.
You have to have a pandemic pivot dance, all right? That's what we call the pee-pee dance on ours. You have to have something that you're discussing, whether it's a new project and how you're, changing it up, doing something different during this time, in which you are,
I mean, I'll have to work on my choreography, but we'll see. We'll see what we can do.
Pants are optional. Just remember that.
Awesome, Kev, Bri, thank you guys. Thank you once again to Kevin Connolly and to Brian Connolly, of course, his brother. You know him. He's been one of my regulars forever since the beginning of this podcast. I was definitely glad to have him as one of my co-hosts. And I'd been wanting to have Kevin on for a while just because he's had such an amazing career. He's such a great guy. From everything he's done with the Blue Man Group to the Shabooms to the Schmeltz, he and Brian's comedy band that they've had for a long time since they were kids. And now as part of the Kev and James Show, his new podcast. So make sure you go check out his new show, subscribe to it. And thank you for listening to this show. If you want to follow me, make sure you follow me on Twitter at jackxconnor. Like me on Facebook at facebook.com/jackconnormusic. I also have all the information for my guest today here in the description. Make sure you go follow him and all his bands and all his various projects as well. And feel free to check out some of my bands, like Vertebreaker. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/vertebreakerband and Mature Musical Pictures at maturemusicalpictures.com. And as always, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, make sure you email me at jackconnorpodcast@gmail.com or tweet me with the hashtag Phoenix Report. If you're listening to this on YouTube or iTunes or wherever you're listening to this, make sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave a comment, go back and listen to all the other episodes. Go back and listen to some of the ones I've done with Brian Connolly. It's been pretty wild. So thank you as always for listening. This has been the Phoenix Report. I am Jack Connor. I'll see you later.